Hello, it's your old pal John, back for another something interesting, little segments that I'm doing for YouTube about interesting things, maybe something from history, maybe a building, a story, something that happened. I'm thinking of things like the Mary Celeste, for future segments. But today's segment is something that you can visit now. It's a privately owned tourist attraction, and it's something that is kind of buried down in the bottom of the state of Florida in a place called Homestead, Florida. It's way down there, kind of towards Miami, and it is called Coral Castle. And Coral Castle is in existence today, just as it was whenever the eccentric gentleman that built it, named Ed Leedskalnin, who was an immigrant here to the United States from Sweden, I believe. Oh boy, I should get that right. I'm not sure. But anyway, Ed Leedskalnin was a really interesting character. And in fact, Coral Castle has captivated my imagination in such a way that I bought his books. He wrote some indecipherable books, and I even bought the book How to Read His Writings, which didn't help at all, to be honest with you, about figuring out what Ed Leedskalnin meant when he wrote these books. I guess I thought when I read these books I was going to somehow understand and discover the secrets of Coral Castle and its construction. Let's start talking about Ed for a minute. Ed was, like I said, an immigrant, didn't speak English all that well, and it's evident in his books. But he was a self-educated man and arguably a genius. He worked with magnetism. He worked with, people said he had supernatural powers almost, but I think he just simply understood how to move things and how to build things, and was an artisan of tremendous precision, as is evidenced by Coral Castle. Coral Castle was built, like a lot of great things, to impress a girl. Ed Leedskalnin liked a girl and built Coral Castle really for her to show off and like, isn't this romantic and nice? Look what I built for you. It didn't work. He never married her. He didn't go out with her. She just was not into old Ed. So it's kind of sad, but don't worry, Ed. We love you and we remember you because of the unbelievable thing that you left behind. And that's Coral Castle. Coral Castle is a structure. Using the word castle is a little bit misleading. It is not a building. It is a series of sculptures and walls, and in fact the main gate into it is in itself is a masterpiece and an almost impossible feat of engineering. And when you think that Ed Leedskalnin, since he didn't have his girl with him, was very much a loner, and he did all this work by himself, this little, very short guy was able to do almost the impossible. There's over 1,000 tons of oolite, which is basically like coral rock. Florida at one point was all underwater, and so just a few feet below the ground, you can dig in many places, such as Homestead, and find oolite and mine it if you have the abilities. Ed Leedskalnin had no mechanical. There's no trucks, no cranes, no just nothing to mine this oolite. Yet he did. In many ways, you're going to say, well, what you're saying is impossible. And I agree, it's impossible. What he did is impossible. But nonetheless, it is there. It was built. It is done. Coral Castle, like I say, is about 1,000 tons of oolite, and it is arranged in amazing ways. The walls are built with such precision that daylight does not penetrate them. No mortar between the joints. They're just simply carved oolite, coral, and laid together in such a way. But the really amazing part is, in some way, an unknown way, this is a mystery. I don't have an answer at the end of this video, but in some way, he was able to manipulate stones weighing tons and tons each into places that he wanted them. These sculptures, some of them are like big half-moon sculptures and towering things. He was able to manipulate these huge stones into the shapes and the placement that he wanted, and we don't know how he did it. Nobody knows how he did it. There's some people who have suggested parachutes, some people who have suggested that, well, the Earth has a magnetic pull in that particular place, and he was able to somehow manipulate that, since he worked with magnetism. Magnetic Current is the name of his main book. Again, an indecipherable tome that I have read, but none of the knowledge sunk in, and so I don't have the secret power that Ed Leedskalnin had. But most impressive is the gate to get into Coral Castle. It is one huge 9-ton block of limestone, oolite, coral limestone, that is set in place in such a way that you just push it right open with your hand. And anyone can do it. A child can do it. It is precisely made, set up, 9 tons set up in such a way that it works just like a door on your house. So Ed Leedskalnin somehow managed to build this very impressive structure, multiple structures, out of unbelievably heavy stone, and carve it without the benefit of cranes and all this other stuff, and has built a tourist attraction for you now. Go see Coral Castle in Hampstead, Florida. One of the stories that I've heard about Ed Leedskalnin was related by a truck driver who showed up with a heavy load of rock and other material for Ed, and Ed said, I'll unload this truck, but you need to go over there where you can't see me. And the drivers were like, you're going to unload this truck. It's full of limestone. Okay, whatever, man. So they walk over there out of sight, as Ed asked, and he said, come back in about 10 minutes. And so they came back in about 15 minutes or so. The truck was unloaded. How he did it? Another mystery. How did he unload stones weighing a ton or two apiece? Unknown. It's one of our something interesting mysteries, and it's right here in the United States.